Good day, brothers and sisters. This is Anthony Moore for Your Money More from the Freedmen Descendants of Chicago, formerly known as ADOS Chicago. And we're here to talk about a very important, tragic, terrible, horrific occurrence that, at this point, everybody knows about. Now, before we get into that, I do want to speak about as I have in other videos, the 1619 Rapid Relief Executive Order that we here in Illinois are pushing our governor to sign, multi-billionaire Democrat J.B. Pritzker, who inherited all his money, who we call J.B. I wouldn't be governor without the black vote Pritzker. So you can find more information about that at the link in the description box. It's hardbeingblack.info, named after Pritzker's own words, and it relates to the topic that we are going to address, which is this white supremacist, young white supremacist terrorist shooting of black folks who he specifically, explicitly, and premeditatingly targeted. And we going to put it, but see, what we are going to do here today is we are going to put it into the proper context, because it's about connecting the dots. It's about looking at the bigger picture. It's about turning tragedy to triumph, because the tragedy has occurred. And instead of being like so many other tragedies, well, people get upset, people get sad, people get angry, and then after a little while, people forget about it until the next one happens. No, this is an opportunity for this not to be just a moment, but to be a movement, part of a bigger movement, part of an ongoing movement, toward actually making things better, specifically for black people who have descended from U.S. chattel slaves, who are the people who were targeted by this young white supremacist shooter. And so, in order to give it some proper context, by the way, we're about to talk about real things in a real way. So if it's anybody who's real sensitive, you might get real offended. And for real, that's too bad. Because if you one of these people who get real sensitive, you probably one of these people who really need to hear this. So the thing, which I may very well include in the title of this, is how the Buffalo shooter shows black people how we might have to go Nino Brown on them. And when I say Nino Brown, I'm talking about the fictional drug kingpin in the movie New Jack City, because even though he was a fictional character, he was modeled after real black drug kingpins. And even though he was very problematic, and he's an enemy to his own, which is something that we got to have a zero tolerance policy for. It was a scene in the movie, which I am going to link to below, that really puts into perspective the moment that we are in and the approach that we need to have. And I'm going to get into that. But before I even get into that, let's break something down up front, because even though this is an opportunity and it will be a waste of a tragedy, the best way that most of us, especially those of us who don't personally know the victims, can honor them is by turning it from, as I said, from tragedy to triumph. But of course, they got people, especially those of us who look like us, a lot who come from the same lineage of us, who descend from U.S. chattel slaves like us, who they are already using to make sure that that doesn't happen, because that's their job, to be traitors to their own. So we don't just have to worry about the enemy without, we have to worry about the enemy within, which you always have to do in any war. But they trying to spin this as if it's a gun control problem. But no, it's not a gun control problem. It's a white control problem. It's a racist, white supremacist ideology control problem. It's a U.S. history tries they might to hide and deny they need to be brought out in the open and deal with effectively. Control. Problem. Because let's look at this. Let's break this down. If it's anybody that think that this is, whether you for guns, own a gun, don't own a gun, don't ever want to touch a gun, if it's anybody that really think that this is a gun control problem, well, guess what? We could, if we were magically able to get rid of every single gun in America, that would not stop these people with these kind of ideologies from striving to kill based on these ideologies. Do you think that just because these people don't have guns no more, they're going to say, well, man, we ain't got guns no more, so I guess we ain't going to kill these people we want to kill? Hell, they just going to use other weapons. Hell, they might start using hatchets, bow and arrows, bombs. So the problem is the racist white ideology that this gentleman was facilitating and living, breathing, and executing. But the problem is, the issue is, this is a moment to deal with the racist right ideology that is rooted, this anti-black, anti-descendant of U.S. chattel slavery, the very racist ideology that's the foundation of this country, that justified and that started back over 400 years ago with this over 400 years of subjugation, degradation, devastation, exploitation, aggravation, annihilation, and even cultural appropriation that's been foisted upon us like no other group since our ancestors were brought over here over 400 years ago in chains on slave ships. But yet, they want to distract from that issue. They want to muddy the waters. And it gets to the broader issue which we're about to get to. Because going back to what I said as far as how we might have to go Nino Brown on them. Now, for one thing, Nino Brown and the real life Nino Browns, they are an enemy of us. Our own, who do us in, who poison us, who sell us out, who pimp us out, who build fortunes from destroying their own, they gotta go. They Negroes, they need to go. And if you've seen some of my other videos, Negroes, they need to go. I call them need to goes because they Negroes, they need to go. And Negroes like that need to go. But it just ain't drug dealers. It's anybody that sell us out. And a lot of these people are these politicians and these public figures, including these politicians and these public figures who trying to muddy the water and make this seem like it's a gun control problem. Why is no black public figure who's accepted into the mainstream brought attention to the fact that this guy was explicitly anti-black, explicitly anti-U.S. descendant of chattel slaves? He put, here's your reparations on the gun. He was talking about reparations for black folks for slavery. He know what reparations is, and he know we ought to do it. Why do you think he put, here's your reparations? He had that word on the same gun that he used to pull, on the same gun that he pulled the trigger, for which he pulled the trigger. He had that word that rhymes with trigger, that begins with an N, that epitomizes and was used and has been used to capture the very subjugation, devastation, oppression, dehumanization that we just talked about, going back over 400 years, that justify our enslavement. So when I say we have to have a Nino Brown moment, this is what I'm getting at. And I actually have a link. I'm actually going to put the link to the scene that I am referring to in the description box. In New Jack City, there was a scene at the Nino Brown's multi-billion-dollar drug operation was literally burned to the ground. He had a meeting with his lieutenants, top lieutenants. And one of the iconic things that he said in the scene was don't nobody know nothing. That was he said, don't nobody know nothing. Don't nobody know nothing. And that's how it is when it comes to black people. When it comes to black people and everything we've been through and that we've been subjected to and that we still going through and that we are in fact due, as in, don't nobody know nothing. And they trying to, and that's what it means for us to be, intend to be this nation's bottom caste, intend to be permanent underclass. That the very history of us in this country, which is American history, they want to deny it. So that tells us everything we need to know, because history is how you interpret the present. You don't understand the present unless you know the history, because history is what puts you in a position to interpret the present and also understand the trajectory of the present. A lot of times you don't know the trajectory or the possible outcome of present acts if you don't understand the future, you don't understand the trajectory of what's going on. And so history is everything, which is why by they are intentionally denying and want to exclude the history of black people who have descended from U.S. chattel slaves, even though that's American history, which is why I believe that on the United States flag, on the U.S. flag, they should have a picture of a slave picking cotton, because that's more American than the 50 stars. And the slave picking cotton came about before those 50 stars in the states that they represent. Hell, it was the picking of cotton, it was the enslavement of slaves and picking cotton and everything else that we've been subjected to and had to go through and are still going through that facilitated America being able to get those 50 states. Because slavery existed when it only had 13 colonies. Okay, so I think they should change the name of this country from the United States of America to the United States of building unparalleled wealth and power from enslaving and oppressing blacks in America. And the fact that they want what our ancestors went through, the dehumanization, the devastation, the theft of their labor, wealth, bodies, freedom. That's America. And their descendants, have been shut out of, even though they built it, and we never, to this day, have yet got what we got to do from what our ancestors were stolen from us and our ancestors. We've been shut out of it like no other group by design. And yet they want people to, anytime somebody enjoy American greatness, enjoy and benefit and prosper from America, they should have to remember and recall what our ancestors had to go through to facilitate it. And that's everybody. But shame on us as their descendants if we don't demand that, if we don't remember. Because if you in modern day, if you benefited from America and you love in America, you need to remember what people had to go through in order to build this America that you love and enjoy so much. You owe them at least that much and a whole lot more. And so that brings me back to the Nino Brown scene, where when it comes to us and our history, the history that's in the inherent DNA of this country, the very DNA that led to this white supremacist shooter doing what he did, because they trying to make it seem like, one way they trying to spin it in a very wicked, deceitful, terrible way is by making it about gun control. But they also trying to make it about the internet, as if the internet is the problem. We got to stop them from sharing stuff on the internet. Okay, guess what? White supremacist ideology existed way before the internet. Hell, it existed before electricity. What are you talking about? This same racist white ideology that this dude was spitting, that this dude used as justification of what he did, that horror, that terror, guess what? That was used to justify the enslavement of our ancestors. That was used to justify the enslavement and the humanization and ownership of other human beings as not just as isolated events, but as an industry. It wasn't, because it's one thing to discriminate against people, and discrimination within itself is terrible enough. But guess what? It wasn't just discrimination. It was an ideology. Not just an ideology, but a set of laws, codified laws, standard operating procedure, operating manuals. Just see the Willie Lynch letter. It's inherent in the DNA of America. It was used to justify owning other human beings, and the hypocrisy of that, especially in a country that has a defining document that says all men are created equal, but yet you own other human beings. But when it comes to our history, when it comes to how all this stuff tie together, when it comes to that bigger picture, when it comes to what this really represents and how this white supremacist ideology that led to that Buffalo shooting is rooted in the very thing that founded America and put it in a position to be the greatest superpower this world has ever known, the wealthiest and greatest superpower this world has ever known as of now, that built the foundation of wealth of this country, it's inherent in the DNA of this country because it originated with the origins of this country. But don't nobody know nothing. Just like Nino Brown said in that scene, didn't nobody know nothing. When it comes to what we've been through and what we're going through, all of a sudden people don't know nothing. And that's by design. And they want to make sure people don't know nothing, which is why they want to make it damn near illegal, if not explicitly illegal, for our history to be taught. And they call it critical race theory. No, it ain't critical race theory. It's called American history. The words of Nino Brown. When it comes to chattel slavery in the United States of America, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to the black codes, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to convict leasing, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to sharecropping, Jim Crow, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to the burning down of Tulsa, the decimation of Rosewood, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to the assassinations of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Fred Hampton, and countless others, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to being forced to ride the back of the bus and give up your seat for white folks just because they were white and you were black, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to redlining, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to mass incarceration of black folks and the flooding of crack that we talked about earlier that was facilitated by real life, Nino Brown's book was really facilitated by the U.S. government. Don't nobody know nothing when it came to the resultant mass incarceration that decimated and locked up the black community thanks to our now president, Jim Crow Joe. Don't nobody know nothing. Don't nobody seem to know nothing. When it comes to this being in this country for over 400 years, but us only getting it, when it comes to us being in this country for over 400 years, but yet only getting the right to vote not even 60 years ago, don't nobody know nothing. When it comes to our vote, the vote of the descendants of freedmen, in other words, the descendants of U.S. chattel slaves, our vote and our political capital being colonized, conquered, and compromised, like the vote of no other group in this country due to the legacy of slavery and everything that's happened since then, everything that we've been through and are still going through. Don't nobody know nothing? That seems to be the case. And guess what? We got to change that because this killing is more than a moment. It has to be a movement, a continuation, like I said before, of a movement that's already in the gear, including things like what I mentioned earlier, the 1619 Rapid Relief Executive Order that we holding JB, I wouldn't be governor without the black vote, Pritzker accountable to sign, multi-billionaire, inherited all his money, but only got there on the backs of black folks like so many other successful white folks. And we say we got to, so the same way we got to deal with the white supremacy of that shooter, we got to deal with the white supremacy of this system that sees us as a group to be used, abused, confused, and to have our political power disfused. So it's Anthony Moore for Your Money More, Freedmen Descendants of Chicago. Shout out to the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell. Click the links below. Like I said in the description box, I have the link to the scene from New Jack City that I was referencing. Let's go. Comment. Let's go.